Purpose. I tell people all the time that you were created on purpose for a purpose. You know, it might have surprised your parents that you showed up here, but you were no surprise to God. He already had your life in his heart. So take some time today, spend some time with your Father. Make sure you seek him for what your purpose is. And I promise you that the thing you're looking for in the universe is already inside of you. The gift of life and purpose, God has already put inside of you. And let me tell you, the best days that you live in your life will be those days where, number one, you're in God's will. Number two, living your purpose that he put you here for. Hello everyone, it is Regina Sunshine here with the Boss Men on our monthly Living Like a Boss Men show here at Instinct Radio. It's always a blessing to be able to sit in this space with some amazing men doing great things and share them and their stories with you, but also to introduce you to some other amazing people. All right, you guys, you're back live with Regina Sunshine and the Boss Men here on the Living Like a Boss show. And we do have the artist, the man, Edward Archer, aka Special Ed, live with us via Skype. It's so awesome to have you live via Skype. I know we were wanting to have you here in studio, but I'm hoping we can make that happen when you come to Atlanta for the Juneteenth event. And my guys are ready and excited. Musa Lotula, one of our co-hosts, was already saying it reminded him of the days when we used to dance.
Exactly.
Well, remind everybody who you are. Tell everybody who you are, Mr. Archer.
Well, Special Ed, the recorded artist known as Special Ed. I started my career at the age of 15. I recorded an album called Youngest in Charge, and it was released when I turned 16. You know, I went through the court process so that it would be binding. So that was my journey, and I've been releasing records ever since. You know, it's been kind of a rough journey too because of the legalities involved and the music industry as it is, and them not respecting artists back then as much as maybe they do now. A lot of artists have ownership now. Back then we had none.
Why have you continued in the music industry? What is it about music and your passion for music that keeps you going?
Well, I've always loved music, and hip hop is like the way that the world communicates. It's basically a medium for kids from one area to communicate with people from across the planet by words. It's like the ancient tribal communication with drums and chants. So basically, it's the same thing, just in a modern form. You know, however, it's being a little corrupted right now, but it is the same kind of, in essence, the same concept.
Awesome, guys.
I always said that I always said the exact same thing. I used to say that hip hop was text messaging before text messaging, because when we listen to rappers from a different place that we haven't been, and we find out they're going through the same struggles that we went through and how they dealt with it, was kind of like, it was like messaging, right? So as an East Coast kid, of course I grew up on Special Ed and EPMD and Run DMC, Boogie Down Productions, and all those great groups from back then. But I never been to the West Coast. So when Eazy-E and Dr. Dre told us what they was doing out there on the West Coast, that was a form of a text message, in a sense.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
I'm a little curious. I got a question. How do you feel about the current state of hip hop and the influence that it has on our community with regard to, I mean, I don't even know where to begin, so I'll just leave it as general as possible. How do you feel about the current state of hip hop?
Yeah, I'm slightly disgusted on one hand because they've diluted and, you know, diffused our whole message, you know, of strength and power and upstanding and uplifting ourselves as a people, and they've turned it against us. You know, corporate has taken it over, and now the message is one of self-destruction and corruption and diffusion, and I don't really agree with that at all. Now it's like setting us backwards again when we started to come forward, you know. So it's gone from a positive message and upliftment to negative connotations and messages of just all negative. Like, that's not where we were headed as a people or as a culture, as people like to call hip hop. So it's just a real heartbreaking for me, but my intent is to spread the message that was originally intended for us, and it was upliftment. That's really kind of where I came from, where I got it made, because I'm from an inner city ghetto, or quote unquote hood, as you call it. And I didn't have any of the things I rapped about, but I had a dream or image of, positivity and showing them the life that we could live and what we could have if we speak it into existence. So I spoke it into existence, hoping that everyone else would see that picture and that image and continue that message. And in a way they did, but then, like I said, it got corrupted and turned against us. That's just heartbreaking, man, as a person that was out here trying to spread the good news.
How can we combat that?
Well, one way we can combat that would be the same way we have concerts. We need to speak to the people on that large of a scale. If you can have a concert with 10,000 people in attendance, then you should not only entertain them musically, but you should be able to speak to them intelligently on a platform where we can all have an attention span, listen to what's being said, and have some sort of input or feedback towards that, and some guidelines. We need some structure to ourselves, to our people.
One of the things that we got to do, because Musa, I think me and you are in sync in that regard. I was thinking, what's the solution? I think that, and we're not trying to put any of our brothers down. We don't want to shine light on failure, but we've got to do something to magnify the dishonesty of the artists, because the adolescent boys don't know that stuff is not real. These people aren't really living these lives, and I believe that if we could cut some of this stuff, if people really saw that this isn't real stuff, that they're really not living these lives, and they really aren't banking the money that people believe that they're banking.
I second that.
Of course, I definitely agree on that. And as long as we allow them to conduct themselves in that way, then it's going to continue. The brainwashing will continue. It's all a part of programming. With that being said, the artists are doing the same thing to their own people. That's black on black crime. You know what I'm saying? So not only are you letting other people do it to you in the mainstream and the powers that be, but now you're doing it to yourselves, instead of waking up and having a conscience and saying, this is not what we want for our people.
Well, please tell us some of the projects and things that you're working on right now, Mr. Archer.
Well, right now, I've been still touring and doing shows consistently over the last few decades myself, and I've teamed up with some of my my golden era counterparts, Chubb Rock, Dana Dane, Moni Love, and Kwame, and we have a show collectively called The Alumni, where we go out on the road and we do more of a golden era hip hop party, as opposed to just a regular show where we come out one by one and perform. We all hit the stage, we interact with the crowd, we involve them in the show, and we have an experience. And that's kind of more of what we're showing them that hip hop is, as opposed to what they go to a show and see now. So we've been doing that. And in addition, I also I do various things within the industry. I put together my own events at times and book artists. I'm probably one of the only artists that bring money to other artists. I actually book other artists. So a lot of people come to me and say, well, can you get such and such, or Slick Rick, or Rakim, and this and that, and I go get them. It may be R&B. I book R&B as well. So it's a thing where I can't do every show, and I know a lot of promoters, and they call me and they have needs and they want to do things. So I do booking as well. And in addition to that, I do a lot of service in the community. The community I reside in now is currently Charlotte, North Carolina, and Brooklyn. So anytime that there's a cause or someone has something that I think is worthy of me coming out and being a part of, I do that. That's what I do. I'm a registered CMS volunteer here in Charlotte, and I go around with a nonprofit in particular called I Speak Now. And they have different programs, and one of them is a mock trial where we go from fourth grade all the way up to high schoolers, and they have mock trials where the children are the judge, the jury, the defense, the prosecutors, the bailiffs. They play every position in the court system, and we actually have a courtroom at our disposal. And the kids have scenarios and trials in which they have to conduct and hold. So that enables a lot of critical thinking and just understanding of the way the legal system really works, and how to determine or discern and as well as be involved in the whole process. So that's one thing. And we also do arts and literacy and things of that nature. So there's just several nonprofits that I like to just involve myself in, where I can help and lend my support. I kind of gravitate towards the youth and having them have a say, because I was 15 when I started. So could you imagine a 15-year-old? I wasn't discovered, by the way. I went out there and I sought what I wanted. So while in high school, I went out and I found a producer that believed in me, Howie T. He lived across the street from my cousins, and I went and asked my cousin, yo, take me to Howie's crib. I need for him to hear me. She took me over there. I said, yo, Howie, I need for you to hear me and tell me if you want to work with me. At the same age, I walked to KRS house when he lived in Flatbush. I knocked on his door. Yo, what's up? I hear you own your own label. And he was like, well, technically, he broke it down to me, and I was like, okay, well, I appreciate your time, no worries. and went on about my business. So this is how you have to deal with business in an intelligent way. You have to be able to speak to people with intelligence and dignity, and it's not about, yo, let me rhyme for you on the street, or let me rhyme for you on the phone. This is a business, so you have to treat it like one. So I did that at the age of 15, and then got some managers interested where they shopped the material and got to deal with Profile Records. And that's where it all unfolded. But just to show the youth that you don't have to be out there begging or playing yourself in an immature way to get things done. You can speak intelligently, be forward, and you can get things done. You can get people to believe in you and to, hear what you're saying. You can be heard if you deal with the situation in the right way. And that's what I project to all the kids I come across, is that I did this at 15. You can do it too. It's nothing for you to get serious, stop giggling, take the laugh, take the jokes out of things, and go and deal with what you want. Speak intelligently and get what you want out of life.
And we thank you again for being on the show today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, and it's an honor to be included in these types of discussions.
So we have our second official guest of the day. Welcome to the show, David Clay.
Hey, greetings, everyone.
How are you today?
We're all doing awesome.
I love that. I heard you said that earlier. Well, I know you sent me another bio, but this is what I pulled from LinkedIn before you sent me your bio. David Clay currently is a high school math teacher. Is a graduate of Tuskegee University in electrical engineering. Received his master's in education from Eastern University. Mr. Clay is currently enrolled in Mercer University Leadership Program to obtain certification in educational leadership. His short-term goal is to become an administrator in the school system, and his long-term goal is to operate a charter school that engages the community that it serves. I love it. It's so perfect that you are here for this show. So it looks like you started out in electrical engineering. How did you get into education?
That is the $1 million question. That's where I'm supposed to be. But I will share with you. I'm an educator, and I'm a community activist. So really, the time that I'm spending in the classroom is more research. because there are a lot of things that I know now and I see now that I could not have seen had I not spent the time in a classroom. Yes. So the way that I perceive school prior to and how I perceive it now, two different worlds.
And that's how I met you. I met you in your classroom.
Absolutely.
And it's very interesting to be in that space and to see you, I guess, in this space. But you're a different kind of teacher. I'll say that because I'm in multiple classrooms, and you really engage the young people in a way that not everybody is. And it's obvious that you're trying to reach them, not just teach them math. Why is it important to you to reach them outside of the curriculum?
Well, I mean, our youth are our future. And if you read the book, The Four Agreements, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes.
But one of the things it opens up with is how our minds are dumbed down by society to fit in. And we make that agreement whether we realize it or not. And so on one level, you can say you're selling your soul to society. You're giving up your actual purpose, your true inner spirit. And so when you look at the prison system that we have in America, and you look at the educational system, you can find a lot of parallels. And so we as educators, if we're not careful, we become servants of guiding our young boys in particular into the prison system. Because if you study the history of education, education was never designed for a certain group of people. A certain group of people were always an afterthought in education. And so there's no time in history where we have really truly been on the forefront of how we're going to use, how is education in America going to be used to elevate this community. So there have been those amongst us that have come, that you spoke to before us, that thought outside of the box and created schools and created scenarios in which we could be elevated. Obviously, we think of Booker T. Washington, go back to my school, Tuskegee, and all the other men and women that created schools, universities, and now we have some people creating schools. But, you know, I listened to you talking with special ed about how we're going to address the music and the impact that it's having on the youth. And I truly believe that the answer to all of these questions, no matter how you slice it, is going to come back to education. And so the real challenge I believe that we want to take on in our generation is, for once and all, creating a true movement where we begin as a community, as a race, to dictate what happens inside of those walls and those buildings, and not sit back and let someone else make those decisions on our youth.
Absolutely.
I thought I was looking at my bio when I was reading his, except for when I saw the Tuskegee part. Morehouse man here. So,
all right.
Welcome. And the reason why I was saying that, because a lot of what you were doing and what you're going to is kind of where I am now. I have the math background, have the ed leadership degree, and now I'm actually just not going into the classroom. So how do you address the piece when you have students that have this notion, even at a young age, that they hate math, they hate science, etc.?
I thought I had it solved, and the universe blessed me with this tremendous opportunity to grow there at Mays, where I'm at now, because the students are rejecting on one level what I put forth. I open up my whole classroom is based on, hey, I know we're not going to use this math. So what can we get out? Because we're going to do this to get this graduation diploma. So what can we really get on? What can we focus on? And my thing is communication and work ethic, because I don't care where you go in life, you're going to need to be able to communicate, and you're going to need a strong work ethic. So let's agree that that's what we're going to focus on in this classroom as we do this math. But what has happened, what I've run into, is that the students are deficient in the skills. So what you have is you have a group of students that have the desire to want to compete at a higher level, but lack the skills and don't see the connection. because the connection lies within, right? That I'm lacking something, and in order for me to get to that next level, I have to address what I'm lacking. But if I'm not aware of that and don't want to deal with that, then I just need you, the teacher, to get me to the level where I know I want to be. And then when I'm not getting there, I got a problem with you, and now I got a problem with this map because I don't really need it anyway. What are we doing this for? We ain't going to use it. So that's the chant of the defeated. It's like, you know, basically I'm giving up. So my calling card is, we ain't going to use this, so this is a waste of time.
Right. And I started at an early age. I had a excuse me, a third grade class that was already had this mindset. I hate this. And it wasn't until during their flex time, there was this young guy. I ain't gonna call him a problem because he's not a problem kid. It's a matter of he's got bored easily, so he just was disruptive. So what I ended up doing was I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give you a different math problem I'm giving everybody else. So I gave him 4 or 5 digit division, and everybody else like, oh, we want to do that too. So again, he had the more challenging problem, but it kind of then pulled everybody else into this whole thing. First of all, when we started, everybody wanted to get on the computers. Like, no, we're not going to get on. Y'all going to earn getting on the computer today. So it was like, well, we never did that kind of multiplication. Well, that's how you're going to get on the computer. So in essence, no one ever got on the computer. We kept doing math problems the whole period. But what I kept seeing was a matter of you have a teacher who's not challenging you because they see you as a disruption in the class. So they're going to give you your work and then let you get on the computer. And then by the time you get to the 4th grade, et cetera, you're still deficient because someone's not challenging you because of what they see.
What if you were called to a meeting? What if you came to the same meeting and you were at the meeting? And someone asked you, what outcomes do you want to come out of this school? How would that feel for you?
Very empowered.
How about you?
Same.
You?
What outcomes do I want to come from the school?
Mm-hmm.
And like I have a child enrolled in that school?
No, you just live in the community.
I want to see sharp students leave. When they leave, like leave with some wisdom or some knowledge or understanding of what they came there every day for.
So I pose that question. You know, sometimes they say the question is more profound than the answer, right? Mm-hmm. We have within us the ability to create that. We have that ability to have people in communities to walk into a situation and be asked that question and be given for the first time empowerment of what they want to see in their schools. And I wrote this while I was over there. So it came to me, and it says, when the community, home, business, church, culture, does not impact the school positively, because there are communities that, because of the community, the school is going to reflect that community. The schools always reflect the community, whether it's positive or negative. It's reflecting, right? When that's not happening positively, then the school must impact the community.
That's right.
So we're not just educating those kids. We got to educate the parents of the kids. Mm-hmm. We got to educate the businesses in that community about who we are and what we expect to come forth out of that building. And that we cannot waver on. And so we can't allow each teacher to figure out how they're going to educate our kids. But that's what I've come up against. It's the only profession that I see where a professional is allowed to figure out how they're going to do it.
You guys was talking about 3rd and 4th graders. I basically checked out of school in 4th grade. I knew traditional education wasn't for me. From kindergarten through 4th grade, now I'm a guy that just left Africa. So I come to America with my African accent, and I'm hearing these stories, and I know they wasn't true, because I just left Africa, right? So, right?
But you weren't sure. You had to think for a second.
I was like, no, I just left. I didn't see Tarzan. I didn't see him, right? As I was fed the same curriculum from kindergarten to 6th grade to 8th grade, and then when I get to 12th grade, and listen, I did as minimal as possible to graduate high school. I graduated high school for my father, not for myself. Just so my father wouldn't say I had a son that didn't finish school. But I get to 12th grade and they say, well, you know what, Christopher Columbus never found America. Amerigo Vespucci, or whatever his name was, he found America, right? So I'm like, these guys was lying to me the whole time. So I became really street smart as a counterpart to book smart. And now in my years now, I'm really into the books because I know I need both. But talking about the kids that's disconnected from school, I was one of them because the curriculum. So my question to you is, my daughter's in a charter school, and I figured I would send her there because I wanted to be different than the public school I went to. How much control over the curriculum are you going to have if you're getting federal money to teach a school?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, and that's why I'm saying that we have to re-engineer our mindset, the adults, and begin to demand what it is we want in our communities, in our schools. That has not taken place yet on any grand scale. You know, and we have to dictate to the government because it's our tax dollars. The money is not just coming from anywhere. It's our tax dollars of what we. Right now, we measure school by two main things. What are those two things? Test scores.
Money.
Athletics. I mean, some people are going to schools because they got a great football program.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So, and then we look at test scores. But there's not anything much in between that we really are measuring by. So, are we measuring how they're dealing with young men that are displaced? Do we measure what programs they have there for them? Are we asking those questions? Are we doing the research to say that we know this program exists here in Harlem, exists in Chicago? What would it take to bring it to Atlanta? We have to refocus on educating and arming ourselves of what our expectations are for our schools, and then going down those pathways and forcing, I don't like to use the word forcing, working with the powers that be to create something that is going to benefit all of the community.
Well, we thank you so much for being here. If someone wants to contact you, what's the best way to reach you?
Right now, I'm still underground. So you brought.
I know.
I'm still. The Lord has me in an incubator stage. I'm within a year window of coming out full force with what I'm bringing, but God is still working on me. So they can reach you if they want to contact me.
Sounds good.
You'll be the gatekeeper.
Sounds good. All right, you guys, you're back live on the air. Regina Sunshine, the Boss Men, here on our Educating Our Boys segment on the Living Like a Boss show. We have our next guest up, Mr. James Hamphill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So good to have you here.
Yes,
little second home connection, I guess you would say. Greenwood is my second home. But a little bit about you. You are the founder of the Edgewood Community Center in 96. South Carolina, 96. Yeah, there's a place called 96.
96.
I've been
Yes.
there. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm a very simple man. I believe if you want to get it done, do it. Just go ahead and do it. All of the education is a wonderful thing, but sometimes if you really want it, just go do it. A lot of our people, we just sit around and wait for some magic moment. I got to have a degree. I got to have X amount of dollars. I got to have this. I got to do that before I give back to our kids. Sometimes you got to say, you know what? It's time to stop all that and just start doing. So that's what I'm about.
So tell us about the Edgewood Community Center.
Awesome.
You lit up when you said it, too.
Awesome. That's awesome. We were deeded the old Edgewood Middle School in 96. It was maybe a 3 to 4 year process of trying to acquire everything we needed to get the facility. Well, we got the facility. But they say, be careful what you ask for. We got it, and ever since we got it, which was last March, we've been just rolling, trying to do the best we can with what we got.
So what are some of the things that take place in your community center?
When we first got it, we created a flag football team. There's a project right behind us at Edgewood, so a lot of kids just kind of walk through the streets every day with nothing to do. So I said, you know what? We got it cleaned up, and said, you know what? Let's do flag football. Kids loved it. We had some of the kids come out. We had some of the brothers come out who may have gotten in trouble with the law and couldn't coach or mentor through the rec system. They came to help us. And our kids love seeing their dads out there helping coach, love seeing their uncles out there helping coach. So it was a pretty good thing for us to do, and that was the first thing we did. Then we had the summer program, which never was done in '96 to my knowledge. We did the summer, we had about 40 kids. We fed them breakfast, lunch. We did education too. We made a point to say, you know what, we're gonna do education first, then it would do summer fun stuff. We went swimming. We had a swim day. We had a library day, which we was required to read a book and give a report on Fridays. We did current events. I would ask our kids, and our kids love to be challenged. If we can just build their confidence, they want to answer questions. Yeah. But a lot of them just don't know. You see what I'm saying? Because they don't have the people at home, for whatever reason, to challenge them at home. So when they came to the center, we challenged them every day. My daughter would tell you, every day I ask questions. You know, who is the vice president? Who is the president? Who is this? Who is the governor of South Carolina? These things we should know, and we really don't know as far as our kids. So we doing a lot of things down there. And right now we have an out-of-school program going on from from 2:30 to 6 every day. We feed them free. We have a feeding program, home cooked meal, which was provided by Miss Edith Childs.
Oh, Edith
yes.
Childs.
She gonna
fired up and ready to go.
There you go. And
with President Obama.
And she's still fired up, ready to go too. And I'm gonna give a shout out to my sister, Stacy Douglas. We're putting together a Juneteenth celebration, June 17th, and that's gonna be a big program, and we'd love for y'all to come up and take part in it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, okay, you said, one of the things you said I really did appreciate, and it kind of piggybacks off what the other gentleman was saying, is that we just got to take action.
Yes.
You know, and so what it is that you guys do you have a way of charting and seeing kind of the path or the progress that the children who come through your program have later on in life?
Great question, but to answer your question, no. Again, with me, it's simple. If there's a kid that last year was in ISS all the time or thrown out of school, and this year he completed a basketball season and making C's and B's, that's my progress.
Oh, absolutely.
See what I'm saying? If I had a kid who was a troubled student, thrown out of school, who mama may have came to me and said, I can't control him, and then I have him during basketball season, and we finish the season, and he's hungry to learn and get better as a person, that's my chart.
So I guess with that, and the reason I even posed the question, two things. A, do you find it growing because you get the support back from the individuals that you may have helped? Because as we know, there's somewhat of a generational divide. Yeah. And so if you can get those who have the program has had impact on, come back and help, you're going to help grow the program. And of course, when we start talking about, unfortunately, funding is a part of everything, and we want to get away from federal funding, right? So the independent funding, I asked that for purposes of, could you use some of these testimonies and stories to get, because I myself, even if it's just $100, would invest in something like that if I knew enough about it, you know, to help to, grow the project or program.
Yes, sir, and that's a great point. But again, we all have lanes.
Sure.
The educational part of it, the stats and all that stuff, that's not my lane.
Gotcha.
My lane was to get to school and to have these kids somewhere to come and be a part of something. That was my lane. And so what we did last year, I didn't mention this, we created a middle school basketball team. We had a boys team and a girls team. And the reason why we use sports, because sometimes you get the kid through sports.
Right. You
can't go at them and say, we're going to do math today, y'all. We're going to do blah, 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 Spanish or something like that. They ain't trying to hear that. But if you say, look, we got a basketball team. Oh, for real, coach? And everybody know me as coach. Even my nephew, nieces, I'm still coach. But what we did was we did a middle school basketball team. We got a lot of kids from Genesis. Genesis. Genesis is an alternative school in Greenwood, South Carolina. Yeah. These kids may have made a mistake in school one time, and they're done for the year. So they're sent to Genesis. You're not allowed to step on the school's property, go to any games, or do anything. So those kids are just thrown to the wayside. And I've seen that year after year. So we created this team, and I went to the principal at Genesis, Mr. Coleman. Steve Coleman is my different one, though. Yeah. And he was like, James, that's a wonderful thing you're trying to do. Let me help you. He actually called kids out of classroom to meet me, and we signed them up. We had a 16-game season, went 14-2, and those kids loved it. And they had a chance to go and play other schools, which they wouldn't have had a chance to do. So it was awesome for me.
Isn't Shirley Johnson at Genesis? Miss Shirley.
I have no question.
Yeah,
I mean, I have no answer.
She's a teacher there. Yeah.
Reason I just know Mr.
Yeah.
Coleman, because he said, James, I called him first and said, this is my plan, what I want to do. Can you help me? I need kids. He said, come over here and let's talk. I went over there, and that's how I went.
I love it. You gonna say something?
No, I'm just amazed. Like you said, you have a project in the back of you, right?
Yes.
In the back of the school location. Is it the guys that's attending school? What about the guys that's not enrolled in school? Do your program also allow them?
Yes, sir. We have open gyms sometime to where, matter of fact, we're the only facility in 96 that has like a gym. Well, actually, the schools does, but they don't have access to go to the school's gym. Matter of fact, I have a young man right now. I won't call his name, but he was thrown out of school, thrown out of the district, and was told he couldn't come back to school ever. Okay. This child's mother signed a contract stating if you get one more thing, if you do one more thing in school, you cannot come back to any of our schools in the school district, okay? So the mom came to me, and long story short, we got him set up online. He comes to the center every day, Monday through Friday, to do his schoolwork online. If we didn't have a facility there or opportunity there for kids like that, he would be in the street doing God knows what. But he is doing well now.
Awesome.
He's caught up in the schoolwork, and he's progressing, and he's doing
awesome.
okay. Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. So what are your dreams for the future? What are your dreams for the Edgewood Community Center moving forward?
I think I'm a Garveyite, which means I want to be able for us to build something as a group. Instead of complaining about what we don't have and what so-and-so doing and this, that, and the other, don't complain about what's going on over there. If you want something as bad as you claim you want it, do it yourself. You know, I'm kind of, my daughter over there, I'm kind of debating and toying with the issue of homeschooling, because I want my daughter's education to be a lot better than mine was. Okay.
Absolutely.
And one major problem I do have with, let's say, the schools. I may email a teacher, no response. I'll call the school. Well, we'll get her to call you back. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 weeks before I hear from her. My baby's first, I'm sorry putting you on blast, baby. My baby's first report card, okay, B's, couple C's, okay. Next 9 weeks, she dropped 20 points in math. To me, that's a problem.
Yes.
Finally contacted the teacher, she finally returned my information. She was like, well, I have 100 and some students, Mr. Hamphill. I can't email you just for your daughter. Yeah. So I said, you know what? But again, that's the mentality of some of our teachers anyway. And yes, some of them are overwhelmed, and yeah, it's a lot of kids and all that, but you took the job. No offense, you get paid to do that job. And if a child drops 20 points in a grading period, that parent needs to know what's going on. You know, I don't want her to fix it. I want to fix it. If I can't come to school and sit in the classroom with my baby, at least tell me what's going on so I can help my baby at home. But if you can't do that, I don't have no clue what's going on in the class. My baby can't tell me because she's dropped 20 points. How do we fix that?
No, I mean, I agree. My teachers used to tell me, regardless if I learn or not, they still get paid. So,
I have heard that.
so I definitely agree. But I also feel like teaching is a hard job. I mean, and I don't know how we can get more money into the education system to maybe hire more qualified teachers, I guess, if you can say. But I remember one teacher that demanded respect. Yes. And what she did with her classroom, like, you knew if you walked past her classroom, you wasn't going to be as rambunctious as a child as you could disrespect every other teacher in the whole school. But this one teacher, she had it. And she was probably getting paid the same paycheck as the other person. You understand what I'm saying?
That's what's missing.
So it's a I'm not sure if it's caring or if it's a mentality or just a drive to make a teacher demand the respect that they deserve. And
teaching is a calling. it's not for everybody. A lot of people go into education because I'm telling you, here in Atlanta, teachers get paid really well. I don't know if you look at the salaries of the teachers in the school systems around here, is a lot higher than it is in other areas. So they're paid well. But I see what you're saying in terms of there's some teachers who care and some who don't. And if they don't care, they shouldn't be there. Yeah. That should be, somehow there should be some type of way we can measure who is really impacting the students, and not just who's getting high test scores, not who's just, whatever it is, getting some type of accolades, but the ones you can see that the students are running to, the students are hanging around their classroom because they know this person cares about me. There has to be a way that is being paid attention to, and the ones that don't care, get them up out of there.
Yeah.
Period. Get them up out of there.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I was poking at teachers, because I know we need them. They are doing a real important job. Just like you said, it's the ones that really care and the ones that, like, you can see it. You can see it when you go by their class and everybody is sitting in their seat. Exactly. I mean, and they're focused. They're locked in to that teacher. Whatever. I'm not sure if it's magical, but just whatever it is that teacher has control over her class. I mean, maybe she needs to write I'm sorry, I'm losing my words. But maybe she needs to write a script on what she does to control her class.
Well, that's the key thing, control. You don't have control over your class, it's gone. I've substituted in classes to where you can tell whether the teacher, I'm giving me my Barry White voice, you can tell how the teacher was, because then it'd be like, okay, I'll just leave my notes. Everybody sit up. I was in the class the other day, I write my notes, said like, okay, whatever. So it's a matter of, at some point, it's a matter of you take control day one, and you set it to where it's not like you're a dictator, but you're an educator. And we're going to sit here, like we were just saying in the last segment, it's a matter of you have to like do that mutual dialogue, that mutual respect in order for that to happen. Because otherwise, it's going to be whatever.
Set the tone, right? Set the tone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the same thing. I think that in any relationship, whether student, teacher, business, the time to let people know who you are is day one. You'd be better off fighting it out the first day, and then that's going to set the tone for how the rest of it's going to go.
So. Absolutely. Well, you're going to hang around to the end of the show.
Yes, ma'am. One last point, though.
Yes.
We really can't blame our teachers. We got to start at home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there are multiple components to this thing.
Yes, but I hear a lot of people say teachers.
I said it because I'm a teacher.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. But a teacher can't really mold a child. The child doesn't want to be molded, or not even attempted to be molded at home. It's got to be a connection between the two.
Well, that goes back to when I say everybody has a part to play, everybody has a lane to be in. There are people in the community who are meant to go and minister to parents and reach the parents. There are people in the community supposed to reach the teachers. There's somebody for everybody, and if everybody's playing their part, then all the work gets done.
Great point.
And so that's why, and I talk about teachers because I'm a teacher, and I see the ones that don't care, and then I see the ones that the kids know you care, you expect a lot from me. So I'm gonna rise to your level of expectation because you expect so much from me. I don't want to let you down. Exactly. Even if my parents don't expect anything from me, you see the best in me, and I'm gonna rise to what you see in me, and that makes a difference when kids see that in the classroom. Tell everybody how they can reach you if they want to get in contact with you.
Info@edgewoodcc.org. That's my email address. Again, info@edgewoodcc.org.
It's been a great show so far. I think all of our minds are working right now. But we welcome to the show our next guest, Dr. Griffo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here.
It's so good to be here.
Please tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm like all of the other guests that have been here. I'm just a brother that's looking to help free our people mentally, spiritually, financially, culturally, and trying to do whatever I can do to assist in that effort. That's it. Simple.
Well, tell us a little bit about is it Zoser?
Zoser.
Zoser Research Society.
Zoser Research Society is an organization dedicated to disseminating information based off of our culture, based off of our religious backgrounds, various religious backgrounds. So we disseminate books, write books, we do lectures, we do any type of engagement where we're trying to educate people about the great history of the African peoples.
When they make statements like the winners write the history books, you guys go back and say that wasn't necessarily true.
Absolutely. When someone becomes an author, they become an authority.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going right along with your train of thought, because they have become the authorities on what XYZ is. And when I say they, I mean the powers that be, the white exceptionalists. I don't call them supremists because they're not supreme, so I call them exceptionalists. They make exceptions to everything. You know. I like that. So we're going back and we're correcting the wrongs. We're setting the record straight as far as when you're dealing with a lot of our history. Yes, absolutely.
And I see Freemason on one of the books. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. As we go around the world, and we talk to different people via social media, via these interviews, etc. And people find out that I am a Freemason, and then they'll go into the whole, well, Freemasons, y'all run the world, y'all are devil worshippers, y'all are, etc. So then we have to correct that. We have to go out, because a lot of our brothers and sisters were Freemasons, still are, you know, and Freemason helped liberate black folk back when we were going through the whole struggle from the Lincoln era, etc.
In concordance with this whole idea of educating our youth, I'm curious to get your opinion about the educational structure in our public schools, and do you think that we should be into charter, private home schools, or just your views on that?
Actually, I would love for us to control the education of our children, just point blank, period. The problem that I see is lack of ownership. And I'm going to go real quick because I know we're pressed for time. When you get a rental car, you get that rental car and you treat it like crap. You get your own car, you wash it, you clean it, you pepper it, you pamper it. You wear your own tennis shoes, you pamper it. You get your clothes, you pamper it. But anything you don't own, you don't treat, you don't respect. That's why our neighborhoods look like they do. They throw litter because it's not theirs. But if you own a home, you live in a neighborhood, you're picking this paper up because you own it. And because we don't have ownership of our school systems, then the parents don't really care about it. The people that come into the neighborhood from somewhere else don't really care about it. So now, to get more specifically into your question, I think that we need to be African-centered. If the kids don't love themselves, okay, then you can't expect them to learn somebody else's history and embrace it, or somebody else's information. So we first got to get the children to love themselves, meaning their image, their hair, their nose, their lips, their skin color, the way they talk, the way they walk, the foods that they eat. Once we get the children to learn that, then we'll be able to impart on them anything that we want, because I was one of those children. I rejected the European school system. But it's when I started to learn about who I was, then I'm like, oh, okay, so you mean to tell me you got math from the Africans? You got algebra from the Africans? You got geometry from the Africans? Okay, I want to learn it now. You know what I mean? Your language came from my language. You know, there was no Greek if there was no Ethiopian. So once I started to learn and accept me for me, then I was able to accept anything, and then start to excel, because I knew at that point my history was greater, longer, and I was more of a, I'll say it, I was a supreme being compared to the other people that I was surrounded by.
And that you are.
Yes. Please tell everybody who you are and how they can reach you.
Kedar Griffo, I don't use that doctor stuff. That's... I'm a brother.
It was on a paper when
I know. I had this. I was told to submit that. But you can reach me. Send an email, kedar.griffo, KEDAR.GRIFFO@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, or at least Zosa Research Society is on Facebook under Zosa Research Society. And that's way. Those are two ways that you can reach me.
This has been our Educating Our Boys episode, and we've met some amazing guests already. Newest person added to the panel is Dr. Marquita Blades. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Regina and Boss Man.
Well, you know, one of the reasons I wanted you here is because you are an educator that trains educators. And so you have a lot of connections. You see a lot and hear a lot that maybe the rest of us don't see and hear. Talk to us again real quick about your background.
So I describe myself as a recovering mediocre teacher. I spent 16 years in the classroom as a STEM educator. And the reason why I call myself a mediocre teacher is because there were some years when I was fabulous and very effective. And there were some years when I was in survival mode, like the teachers that you all spoke about, who just weren't effective and who weren't reaching the kids the way that they needed to be reached. And so I realized that if there are not a certain number of factors that are in place collectively, teachers should not be teaching. And I made that realization and removed myself from the classroom. And what I'm doing now is working with teachers to help them think about, are you teaching what you love? Are you teaching the students that you love? Are you in the correct environment? And if all of those things don't work together, as well as your personal life and other things that you have going on, you can't be effective. And you need to be really honest about that. And you have to make that hard decision to say, maybe my time is up. It is a calling. And of course you were called to do it, but that doesn't mean you're called to do it forever. And maybe it's time to move into another phase of education where you can be more effective and allow someone else to move in and work with those students who can impact them in the way that they need.
And you call this the Mediocre Teacher Project.
Yes, the Mediocre Teacher Project. We are helping teachers escape the mediocrity trap, either through training to help them remain in the classroom or helping them to discover what their gifts are and to move on to something else.
What are you hearing from the educators in terms of what's going on in the classroom?
Well, the number one thing with educators is that they are tired and they are frustrated. They are constantly having mandates thrown at them of the way that they must teach students. You cannot do this. You cannot say that. You must have these standards on your board. You must spend 5 minutes on this topic and you have to move on. And you're not really allowed the freedom to engage the students the way that the students need. And so for most teachers, it's just become, can I meet everything that I'm being evaluated on? And it's less about, can I meet the needs of my students? And in addition to that, some of them feel like they can't go anywhere else. So what else am I going to do at this point? And so that's where we have to work with them and help them realize that you do have something that you're good at. You do have some strengths. Look at your most effective years. What were you doing that made that year so successful? And those are the skills that we want to help them focus on. And some of those skills are meant to keep them in the education arena, and some of them may take them out of the education arena.
I'm not a traditional educator. You know, I went to school for engineering. I'm a chemical engineer by education, and I was tutoring at a school in South Carolina, and I kept being asked to teach. And what I found there was that I had a calling that I didn't know I had. But it makes a difference, and I've heard this from students, when you know a teacher cares about you, when you know they're there because they want to be in the classroom with you every day. So for the teachers that are having those challenges where they don't, you know, you can see maybe they don't need to be in the classroom every day, what are some of the other avenues that you are kind of helping to direct them in?
So one of the things I realized about myself is that I would get most excited when I was planning lessons and creating projects and also managing summer programs. And I realized that I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person. And it works best when I plan the experience and then hand it off to someone with a little more enthusiasm and stamina who can carry it out well with the students. So one thing I encourage teachers to do is to work in education but not in the public school system, because maybe you are still meant to deal with students just in a different way that's not as restrictive as the public school system may be. And also look into your curriculum development skills. Maybe you need to create your own online course so that you can do it exactly the way that you do it, utilizing your talents, and then of course you are going to be more effective. It's just like we say with students who are gifted and sometimes they act out in class because they're bored. Why can't we apply the same thing to teachers? Some teachers are acting out in the school system and in the building because they're being bored. They're not being challenged. They're not being able to work in a capacity that's best for their learning style. We tend to think that, okay, we apply all these principles to kids as they're going through school, but these same kids now become adults. And some of them are teachers. And the way that we taught them in school is not how we're allowing them to function on the job. And that's why we are getting so many burned out, mediocre teachers who can't even apply their true gifts and talents to what they're doing every day.
Like they're just running on the treadmill. So do you target principals in terms of giving professional development to teachers, or do teachers just find you because they just like, oh my gosh, I need doc?
I've been targeting teachers and administrators. So I want administrators to realize as well how to recognize the signs of a mediocre teacher. If you have a teacher who is super talented and you know that you see something in them, but they're not giving it every day in the classroom, principals need to be able to recognize that and to step in and intervene, because we are also losing a lot of teachers who their time has not really expired, but they just don't know what to do, and they don't get the support from their administration. It may not be an entirely bad thing if the Department of Education is dismantled, because now it presents an opportunity for us to open our own schools that address our issues and address our students according to our culture. So we have to stop believing that someone else has the answer. We have the answer, and we have to step out, as you stated, and just start doing it and making it happen.
We've had so many good ideas today, such empowering and important dialogue from a lot of intelligent individuals and educators at that. And so one of the things that I would like to say, and then we'll get everybody's take on it really quickly, is about what are we going to do now and how do we bring it together, right? Because we've got different people who are doing different things, and everybody's in their lane, but how do we bring it together? One, we know that we have to have community involvement because this is a community. And then the next thing is how. So one of the things that I suggest, and I don't know how we're going to go about doing it, is that we have to get the community, the parents, the businessmen, the investors, the church, everybody in the community to understand why they must be involved. And they need to know that from the incentive standpoint as well as the consequence standpoint. If you care about your children, then we need to be able to show them the consequences, and the teachers need to know the consequences of what happens when our children are not educated.
What God was saying to me is that we need to sit down after this show and meet and begin to strategize and organize. To your point, he said, keep it simple. You see something, make it happen. So in that meeting, we need to select a school district or a school, and then use our collective resources to then do the question that I asked you guys earlier, which is the whole vision is to bring a community in and have them to be empowered by asking them, what do you want to see out of this school? So it's going to take us dealing with some things politically, which is no problem to get politicians out legislatively. It's not going to happen overnight, but we want to begin to transform how communities interact with schools and set that precedent.
It has to be several of us in several communities all at one time making this happen. I'm partnering with people in Greenville, Stacey Douglas Foundation. We're trying to build a network of people partnering together to have the same goal and the same outcome for our kids.
My thing is this. We like to hold the political people accountable for what they're not doing, but we're not holding the people in the community accountable. I think one of the biggest places we need to hold accountable is the church, and make those preachers be accountable for building businesses. If we're bringing in thousands and thousands of dollars every week, tithing and et cetera, then some of that money should be funneled into the community where the church is actually located. Not the preacher takes the money and go to his nice exclusive community where, around the block is a bunch of dope dealers. So I feel like we need to hold the preachers accountable.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Our boss motto is this: our men need each other, and our community needs our men. Make sure you guys continue to be blessed, keep winning, and keep living like a boss.
God loves you just the way you are. You are beautiful because you were created in love. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. You have the seeds of greatness within you. You were born to live a victorious life. You are brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. You are worthy of the best things in life.